Josh here at FASS Fuel Systems. Today we're going to install one of our titanium 165 series fuel systems along with the FLK S03 fuel return line kit on the C15 Cat Caterpillar engine. First thing you guys are going to need to do when you open the box, check and make sure all the fittings are included. That's going to be with the fuel line kit and with the titanium system. All the fittings, bolts, brackets, isolators, wire harness, etc. All these parts will be listed in the beginning of your installation manual. Next thing you're going to need to do, log on to our website, fastride.com, and click on the Register Warranty tab. You have 30 days from the date of purchase to register your warranty to receive the full benefits. Now I'm going to walk you guys through the steps of this installation. First step of our installation, we're going to need to run our electrical harness. Now you're going to want to find the best access point to run the wires through the firewall. And on this truck particularly, it's got a pass through right here. So we got a 7/8 hole saw, going to drill a hole, get our grommet in there, and run the harness. Now that we have our 7/8 hole drilled, we're going to go ahead and install our grommet and firewall. Now that we have our grommet installed in the firewall, we're going to route our wire harness through the grommet. Using a test light, you're going to need to locate a key-on power source, which is going to be used to power the FASS system. Now that we have our electrical harness routed and connected on the inside of the cab, we're going to need to remove the factory fuel filter housing and mount the FASS system. Make sure you have a drain pan underneath here before you do that to catch any diesel fuel. Our next step, we're going to go ahead and get our FASS bracket mounted to our FASS system. Be sure not to over torque these bolts. Before we drill our bracket here, we need to mark our mounting location. When we do that, be sure it's in a good location to where the fuel lines are going to be able to route nice and easily to our ports here on the fittings. Before drilling the mounting holes, be sure to verify that there are no wires or hoses behind the frame rail that could be damaged during drilling. Now that we have our mounting holes drilled, we're going to install our FASS on the bracket with the rubber isolator in position. Now for this particular installation, rather than utilizing the straight fittings that are included in the kit, we're actually going to need to use a 90 degree on the suction side and a 45 degree on the pressure side to feed the factory fuel lines properly. Before we install the fittings in the pump, I'm going to go ahead and get our thread tape installed. Be sure to wrap it in the correct direction, prevent it tearing off when you're installing it in the FASS. Now connect the feed line to the T-port on the FASS system. connect the engine feed line to the E port on the FASS system. Now that the FASS is mounted, we have our fuel lines connected and secured, we're going to install our water separator and our fuel filter. Now be sure you install the filter nipple O-ring above the top of the water separator. What you'll want to do is grab it, install it on your filter nipple, and just go ahead and put your water separator on. Snug the fuel filter up. Now you will have to loosen the fuel filter up here during the priming process, which we'll get to at a later time. Now that we have our power and ground wire connected inside the cab, we're going to need to secure our wire harness, secure our fuse, and connect the FASS system. And be sure you tie your wire harness up away from any moving objects like the steering shaft, which would cause that wire to rub through. Now that we have the FASS system installation completed, checked all of our connections, everything's secure, we're going to go ahead and move on to the fuel return line kit. Let's get it started. First step in our fuel return line kit installation, we're going to assemble the fittings in our T. Be sure to get your thread tape on here. Alright, the next step, which we're getting ready to show you, we're going to remove the plugs from the extra NPT ports on top of the fuel tanks. Once you do that, you can come over here to your stand and assemble the necessary fittings to get the return elbows into the fuel tank. We supply ample amounts of fittings for various sizes to space it out differently from the fuel tank, but whatever you're going to need, we supply the fittings with the kit. Now that we have our necessary fittings assembled with thread tape, we're going to remove the plugs from the NPT ports on the fuel tanks, like we previously mentioned, and get these installed. And here's the plug we had mentioned previously in the spare NPT port. Going to need to remove this plug. And on this application, this one's actually going to be a 1/2 inch NPT, and the fittings I had assembled previously are going to fit right in here. And if you see how I have these fittings stacked here, the reason I did that is to get extra clearance to run the fuel line over the frame rail. Now we're going to install our CA1001 with compression nut onto our FASS return fitting and torque this. Now we're going to route our nylon return line down to the cross member where we're going to mount the T-fitting. Now on this application, I actually ran the hose up from the bottom and going to bring it up to the FASS. It just allowed for a cleaner and simpler installation. Gonna give it a good pull, make sure our compression fitting is crimped onto that nylon line, and we're good. Gonna go down to the T. Now we're gonna route our fuel line back to the rear of this cross member where we're gonna mount our T fitting for the fuel tank return. Now be sure to route this fuel line and secure it away from any moving objects like the drive line, anything that could cause it to rub through and end up eventually causing a leak. Don't want any problems going down the road. Alright, now that we have this routed, I'm going to get some cable ties and secure it. Always want to trim your zip ties. Give it a nice clean look. All right, there we go. We're ready to mount the T and get our fuel line connected. When you mount your T fitting to the cross member, be sure to mount it vertically with the supplied tube clamps that will secure to the return lines going to the fuel tank. And you're also going to want to grab a tape measure and be sure it's mounted dead center on that cross member. That's going to prevent overfilling of either fuel tank. Our next step, we're going to run the return lines to the T, which previously we mentioned going to mount in the center of that cross member. So what you're going to have to do is measure the longest distance, which fuel tank has the longest distance to the T. Now you're going to have to cut both fuel lines to that exact same length. If you fail to do this, what could end up happening is you will overfuel one of your fuel tanks. The FASS won't return fuel to both fuel tanks evenly. I'm going to walk you through these steps. Now that we've measured and cut our longest fuel line, we're going to need to cut the next line to the exact same length. And once again, this is an extremely important step. We're going to install our fuel line into our tank fittings. Now we're going to secure our T-fitting to the cross member with the provided tube clamps. Now more than likely you're going to need to pre-drill the cross member before you run in the self-tappers. Usually these semi-frames are so thick that you're going to have a hard time actually getting the self-tapper to drill all the way through. Place this in position. Now remember, I measured this to dead center. I'll start with that one. We have our hole pre-drilled. Now we can run our self-tapper in. Now we can go ahead and mark and pre-drill our second hole. Once again, be sure you have this mounted vertically. Now that we have our second hole pre-drilled, we can secure our tube clamp. Now that we have the T-fitting secured, our return line running from the FASS system, we're going to get it cut to length and secured to our T-fitting. Now that we have all of our fuel lines secured, connected, we're going to prime our FASS and check it for leaks. Wait for our pump to change tone, just like that. All right, we're primed. I'm going to get under the truck, check everything for leaks. Now that we have the FASS installation complete, our fuel return line kit is completed, the FASS has been primed. What we're going to do, we're going to start the truck up and let it run for about an hour. What this is going to do is we're going to test the fuel return line system and make sure we have installed it properly. And how you will do that after the truck has been running, you'll make sure both fuel tank levels are even and that the FASS is returning fuel evenly to both fuel tanks. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. We've had the truck running for at least an hour, so what we're going to do, we're going to pop the filler caps off here and check the level in both of the tanks. And if they're both even like they should be, it was a successful installation and this truck's gonna be good to go. Let's take a look.